go. Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic podcast. We have Stephanie Hudson with us today. She is the founder of Focus WP. And we are chatting about building a business in the WordPress ecosystem. Specifically, also just as a woman, like what does that experience look like? Coming into something that is male dominated, but building out an amazing company in an amazing niche. Before we dive into the story behind Focus WP and what Stephanie has going on, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. All right, coming back. We have Stephanie with us. Stephanie, why don't you introduce yourself, and then Jonathan, I'll have you introduce you and yourself, and then we will dive into the show.
Guys, I'm Stephanie Hudson. I am the owner of Focus WP. We offer white label outsourced services for agencies and freelancers, and I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. We're really excited to have you here. Jonathan, you want to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Yes, folks, I'm the founder of WP-Tonic. We build membership websites for people who want to either do it themselves, or we can build the whole thing out for you using the power of WordPress. Over to you, Stephen.
Perfect. So Stephanie, just to dive in, can you give us just like maybe a little bit of background on Focus WP, how you got into it, like what the avenue was for you to start Focus WP?
Sure, yeah. I've been building websites since dial-up internet, which makes me feel super old, but I've been working in WordPress for, about 10, 12 years now, maybe longer. I don't know the exact date, but I've always had sort of something, whether it's been, I've been freelancing in web, side hustle while I had another full-time job. I've been a full-time web developer. I've had a partner. I've been a solopreneur. Like I've tried all the things. So I get the pain points. I get the pain points that people have. And I met my business partner, Tom Jensen, at a WordCamp. We were conference buddies that day. I very awkwardly approached him and because he was by himself and I was by myself. And I said, would you like to be my conference buddy? And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, can we just hang out during the conference so we're not by ourselves? And he was like, sure. And we became like best pals. And we had a great conference. And a week after the conference, he sends me a text message and says, hey, go check your email. Don't freak out. Just read it. And it was a business plan because we had been talking about so many things. And at the time we were talking about maintenance primarily. This was back when care plans were not as common. It was just sort of starting to be a thing that everybody was offering. And a lot of developers hated them. And I loved them because they were profitable and easy. And so we ended up starting a business to offer those white label. And then as things progressed and our clients loved us and trusted us, they would say like, hey, could you also do this for me? And could you do that for me? And so we realized like there's this void, there's this hole in the market where people are trying, like they're not quite ready for a full-time hire, or they need multiple people to help them. So we kind of became this bridge between working by yourself and hiring a full-time staff. So it's just sort of grown very organically based on the feedback of our customers and our people.
That's really cool. Did you start in like, how fast did you get into WordPress? I guess like you said, you started like way back when probably WordPress wasn't even really a thing or that popular, at least. Like where did you start and how did you find WordPress and why did like WordPress pull you in?
This question comes up so much and I cannot remember. I worked with Drupal. I had a full-time job working at the College of Engineering at Georgia Tech. I know exactly, Jonathan. And I worked at I rebuilt their site in Drupal, and I don't remember how I came up with that decision, but so I learned all of that, and then it was sort of right after that I transitioned. So in the early 2010s, like maybe 2012, 2014, something like that, I ended up in WordPress and I was building sites, using templates and things like that. I've never been like a hardcore coder. Mm-hmm. I'm not really a PHP developer or anything. And I landed on Elegant Themes because they had so many different templates you could use and they were all built the same because that was such a learning curve trying to use all these templates. I love that model. And then Divi came out, which changed everything. And then, so I've become kind of a Divi person. I'm on the Divi Chat podcast each week and things like that. But I'm not anti any of the builders. I made a conscious decision. Like I fell in love with Divi immediately because it was so useful. And then all the other builders were popping up. And I was like, I get shiny object syndrome so bad. But I said, you know what? It takes so much time and so much money to be in each of the ecosystems. I just made a conscious decision. Like, I don't think one is better than the other. Like, I don't get into any of those things online where everybody wants to like bash one or the other. I just made my choice, and I can get by in most of them, but that's just the one that I chose to invest in the ecosystem and be a part of. So
that's cool.
Did that answer your question? I think I got. You're gonna have to keep me on track, Stephen. I get it.
No, I love meandering conversations. That's where you find the good stuff and interesting stuff. So this is like a complete tangent, but since we're meandering anyways, front end builder versus back end builder, do you stick primarily to the front end or back end of the Divi page builder? Yeah.
I am a back end builder kind of girl. When the front end builder came out, it was a hard shift into that. And then I eventually liked it. And then when they upgraded the back end builder where you could see it visually, I went there and I haven't looked back.
Nice. Cool. Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah. So you're into maintenance. So how do you get your leads, Stephanie? Do you do it by nichifying? Have you found your own community online and you target yourself? Or how do you mostly get your lead bucket filled and convert them?
I do have an online community. I've started a Facebook group, which is small, but very engaged. I love it. It's, and like I said, I'm fortunate because my leads, my target audience is my people. Like, these are my people. They're agency owners, they're freelancers, they're digital marketers and creatives, and so I know how to talk to them. I love talking to them. I love hanging out with them. So it's really an awesome, like, I just love it. It makes me so happy because I like helping these folks, and that's really it too. Facebook, I honestly cannot believe how good Facebook is for business. Like, when you think about Facebook, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever it started, and then even as it grew. And now, if you talk to people who aren't in our sort of area, a lot of people think it's grandmas sharing photos of their cats or whatever. But my goodness, like, when you dive down into all the groups and the different like private areas of Facebook, it has been so beneficial for my business. I always tell people, whether it's for work things or other stuff they're trying to get information on or find their tribe in different ways, I'm like, start looking for Facebook groups. And I know there's all kind of stuff that we could talk about and complain about on Facebook, but I'm not like going down that road, but I'm just saying, like, as far as the usefulness of the communities there.
So basically, they're small agency owners. They're in Divi. You use Divi, but also they're your target audience.
They're not all Divi folks. Yeah, we do maintenance and all that stuff at Focus WP with anything. I have an agency where when I build sites, I just use Divi.
Yeah,
in my own site.
But Divi does appeal to the smaller 1 to 2 person agency that would be attracted to your outsourcing services. Would that not be correct?
It is correct, yeah. But there's a lot of Elementor users too. We've got some really good Beaver Builder clients, Here's a question for you guys. What makes somebody an agency? We were just debating this at a conference I was at last week or week and a half ago. And we were saying, because the word agency is tricky, right? Because does it mean the size of your team, or does it mean the breadth of the services you offer?
No, I've got a very easy answer for that, Stephanie.
You didn't know I was going to flip it and ask you.
No, I'm not surprised, Stephanie. But I've got a very easy answer, Stephanie. All the money that comes in every month just goes to the people that work for you, and there's no profit for you.
That's an agency?
That's agency.
That's how you know. Profit. Okay, got
it. So it's a bleak outlook on agencies there, Jonathan. Like you're talking like specifically like the the dividing line between like a freelance contractor and an agency?
Yeah,
Like
I'll
where
tell you
does
where
that?
this came from. It came from we've been doing some rewriting on our site, and we're trying to think like just general SEO stuff, audience stuff, what's going to resonate with our tribe, our people. And it's like, do you call yourself? Do they call themselves an agency? Do they call themselves a freelancer? Who are we helping? If we say we're helping agencies, does that alienate people who think, oh, I'm just little old me, But then there's people who aren't identifying themselves as a
Yeah.
freelancer.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is about that word is that there are people who are, a one person shop doing everything themselves, which is like what a freelancer is, but they're going to call themselves an agency.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Uh, I think agency is an aspirational sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
either you are one or you're aspiring to it, so you identify with it, or you
That's a
are
good way to
a
put it.
freelancer. And if you're identifying as a freelancer, I have found that most of those people want to stay as freelancers and they love the freelancer. Like, it's more of
They
like
do
a
like that.
lifestyle
It's
sort of definition.
It's like how everybody's identifying as something or other these days. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. Like, I think there's not really a definition. And this is all just sort of new. And again, it was an interesting thing to talk about with other agency owners at this
Yeah.
conference, like what is the definition? And I think it's kind of just like you're saying, it's like what you identify as. Like, do you
Yeah.
identify as a,
Yeah. I know.
so
I was
we're
calling.
starting with our pronouns, she, her, agency, or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
I think agency has this like connotation where like I called my business an agency when it was just me. Before I had a single employee, I was calling it
Yeah.
an agency. And it was more of like a size thing, right? I wanted people to like see me as larger because I had the aspiration of growing larger. Like, it was never just going to be me. And I think that's why I like grabbed that word and like held on to it. Although like by definition, was I an agency? Like, nah, I don't like definitely more freelancer than agency style stuff. But like, as you grow, like that's what you become because, that's what you're kind of angling after, going after.
Yeah, it's
a good question.
It's very understandable in a way, but I think it's the same thing. What is a developer? There's some people that classify themselves as a developer. The reality is they are high level implementer. There's others, there's designers that do a little bit front end coding that probably are more advanced than they think, but they still wouldn't classify themselves as a front end developer. They would say, I'm a designer. It's so interchangeable, all these titles, aren't they?
Yeah, it's so true that I think our industry has changed and matured and morphed so fundamentally over just the past decade. I mean, the web is only 30 years old to begin with. So that's like just blows your mind when you think about that, right? That it's not like that it's such in the infancy stage still. But if you think about just the last decade, how much stuff has changed, even just adding on builders, giving folks who really aren't coders the ability to make some really complex, dynamic sites. There's a lot to it. And what the terminology is, I did hear a WordCamp talk about that a couple years ago, where it was like, what is your job title? Like, what do you do? A lot of times people ask me what I do, and it depends who asks, of course, but sometimes I just say I make websites. And that's like, because I'm not really, I'm not a coder. I'm not really a good designer. I have a team now that's doing most of the work anyway at my agency, but it's like, it's just such a strange thing that like, it's so nebulous what all these different titles are. It's almost like the terminology hasn't grown with the industry.
Yeah. Back to maintenance type stuff. You said that like, and the agency used Divi, but of course with Focus WP, you're using, whatever the client has, right? Whether page builder or custom, whatever. How do you manage that? How do you handle that? Like, I feel like it's hard enough to handle maintenance on sites that you've built yourself, but all of a sudden you're doing maintenance on other people's sites that they've built and helping them keep plugins updated and making sure the site's always up and stable. How do you like juggle all of that?
It's so fun. We just, we go through each site when we get, I'm such a nerd. I love it. Whenever we get a new site, we do a little walkthrough of it. We have a kickoff call. We do a little recording and we check out everything. We make sure everything's running good. We evaluate if there's premium plugins or not, all those kind of things. And then, we just have a system. We have a system in place. I built a little mini machine at my agency previously where we use managed WP, and we have a couple other tools for redundancy, but I just trained some staff. They weren't even really developers or anything, but I just trained them. I taught them what the numbers mean on the updates. Like if it's point this, it's probably okay. If it's just a big first number change, then you got to be careful. Like we taught them. And they've been doing it for years now, and they're awesome. And they just log any issues in ClickUp. It gets assigned to a developer right away. Like the whole thing just runs smooth because we've just put the energy into doing the processes and the training and all of that. It's just like with anything, but
yeah. Well, how do you handle like, okay, so you update a plugin, there's an issue on the site, you create that ticket for your developer to look at it. When do you loop your end client back in and say, hey, here's things that need to happen. We need to make some big shifting changes. Handling that kind of variability, just because there's been moments in time where we've updated plugins and it's just well, this crashed everything, or this doesn't work. This is going to take a lot of work to get this back up,
So we have a really elegant solution, I think. It's first of all, there's a lot of the sites we just update live, but there's a tier where you can get them updated on a staging, but that's up to the site owner, our clients, not us. So don't think we're being just risky if we just update them live. But if something goes wrong on a site, we will spend up to 1 hour trying to fix it. Mm-hmm. If in 1 hour it's not fixed, we will make sure it's back to the most recent secure, stable backup. And then we contact the site owner and we give them one of two options. One is you can just wait it out because it's probably a bug and it's going to get fixed and it's not a security risk. Or two, you got to get a dev on it. Here's our focus on demand services. If you want to use us, we got you.
That is elegant. That's very simple and straightforward. It felt like it would be a very complex thing, but
nope.
But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we need to go for a break, Stephen.
Oh, break time.
Break time.
All right, so
smoke them if you got them, everybody.
Now's your chance. We're gonna hear from our sponsor really quick, and we'll be back and dive into more questions and hear more about Stephanie's experience with WordPress and building a company. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, coming back. If it's okay with you, Stephanie, I kind of want to dive into this, being so early in the web.
Is there any chance I could ask a question, Stephen?
Oh, yeah. Go for it, Jonathan.
So, as a woman in WordPress, reflecting back, have there been any particular challenges you feel that you've had to face and overcome as being a woman in the WordPress community?
Honestly, I think it's an advantage. I think there are industries out there that are male dominated that make it very difficult for a woman. Personally, I have never felt discriminated against or judged or anything. However, I'm not really a pushover. I'm not the kind of girl that gets pushed around too much. I usually got something to say, and I'm going to say it. But no, honestly, I think I have some advantages, hashtag blessed, whatever. I'm gregarious. I'm not shy, and I'm not afraid to put myself out there. And I think when there are so many white males, if you can come on the scene, I'm obviously white as well, but if I can, there's a difference, right? I'm a girl. I'm a big giant redhead. Nobody can tell I'm a giant anymore because everything's on. We're all sitting down on screens, but I'm 5'10". When I'm in a room, and I wear heels, so I'm a big giant redhead. You stand out, and what are we all trying to do is to differentiate and stand out. And so for me, that makes it kind of an advantage, really. And I've never been one of those you're a woman in business. You're a woman business. No, I'm a business owner. I don't know. I feel like we all need, I feel like if I start talking about being a woman, then that is alienate. I'm putting myself in a separate bucket, and that's not my aim. That's not my personal struggle either, though. So I don't judge other people for doing it, but that's not, it's just.
Well, let's broaden it out a little bit. What have you ever suffered from the imposter syndrome? You know, where
Always.
you've
Right
and how
now.
and
Any
how
minute,
have
you guys are going to figure out it's just me sitting here. It's going to be embarrassing.
I was going to say, how have you got any advice or insights around how you've dealt with that?
I do. There is an element of fake it till you make it. And I think that doesn't work in every situation. But if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a web geek, those things those are two things that certain kinds of people do, right? We figure stuff out. We figure out how to solve problems. We figure out how to do things. There's not a lot that comes at us that we just give up. No, we dig and we figure stuff out. So to me, that's the same way with feeling like an imposter. Maybe if somebody brings a site to you that you don't feel like you can handle, what are you going to do? You're going to say like, I'm going to figure this out. And you might lose money on that project, or you might, whatever it is. Or if you're going into a podcast episode or an interview or a talk at a conference or anything like that, you might feel like, I don't really, but we just figure stuff out. That's how we're built in this industry. Like our people are that way. So you just have to go dive in head first. You got to just force yourself to do it. And it's a little uncomfortable, but man, once you do it, once you get on that stage and you talk about something that you felt uncomfortable about doing, and you get positive feedback later, or people that give you a good response or congratulate you, there's like no better feeling than that. Whenever you conquer that fear and you conquer those gaps in your knowledge or your experience. I love that.
Yeah, it's always a huge rush when you do something that you thought was impossible or thought was going to be scary and terrible, and then it ends up like, working out like most things do. But
Yeah,
you can
and
just
when you're
build it up
talking
to
to
be such a thing in your head.
right, and I talk to agency owners a lot and stuff, so they can smell the BS a mile away, right? Because it's the same industry. But if you're
Yeah.
talking to, especially people who are working with business owners that aren't in our industry, like even if you are not a master of all things in web development or in your builder of choice or in business or whatever, like guaranteed you know more than the people that you're talking to. Like because they also probably are going to ask you to help them fix their printer and stuff like that too,
Yeah.
because we are those kind of folks, right? We figure stuff out. I know printers are the worst.
I'm not. I'm just not dealing with that. So
With printers.
It is. It's tech support always goes in with web, doesn't it? For some reason, I don't know.
no, not with me anymore.
No, yeah,
No.
It's
I'm
fine.
too nice.
What are your thoughts being in the maintenance space? And WordPress is growing and expanding rapidly. Like the number of page builders we have now versus where we were 4 years ago, like it's just increasing, and it feels like things are getting, I don't know, like easier, but also like so much more complex all at the same time. Do you feel that way too, like dealing with all these sites, or as WordPress is becoming more mature and the players are a little bit bigger, are you seeing like increased stability, and like simplicity in the WordPress ecosystem?
It almost feels like they take turns, like ruining our day. Like Divi will have 50 updates in a month all of a sudden, and a bunch of stuff breaks. Elementor, it was just a couple months ago where everything crashed on Elementor sites, all that kind of stuff. But we keep up with what's going on. We keep up with all the trends, with all the news that's happening. We watch out for any kind of vulnerabilities. We have a little newsletter that goes out, our Watch Out Wednesday newsletter, with like what people need to be on the lookout for. And I mean, really, that's it. And when this is what we do, like you're just in it all the time. So we just master it. That's what we just make it our business to know what's coming down the pipe, and we deal with it. And then we have also like all the other on-demand services too, where we're building sites for people and working actively on their sites. And that takes even more diverse knowledge and a more diverse team. And so we are starting to implement like some educational resources and stuff for our team so that we can keep them really up to date and cross-trained on multiple builders and things like that, so that we have lots of redundancies.
How big a team are you guys now?
I think we have 18.
Oh, wow. That is a good sized team to try to keep everybody in sync
Well, we've
and
got
on the same page.
developers, designers, copywriters, video editors, and VAs. So
Okay.
it's a lot of folks. Yeah.
That is a lot of folks. That's awesome.
Mhm. And we got a wait list too for our for devs and stuff, especially. So as we increase, then we just bring on our new folks.
That's awesome. Is there ever a site that you won't touch? Are there like sites that you're like, no, like this site is beyond like we can't do maintenance for this site. It's too something. Or will you guys pretty much roll up your sleeves and dig into anything?
I haven't yet. I can see there could be a scenario if something is just very, very custom and it's nonstop breakage. I mean, we have that rule of we'll spend an hour trying to repair it. But if it's so cobbled together with a bunch of custom bits and pieces that it breaks every single week, that's not going to end up being a profitable customer for us. But also, I don't really just say no, we're not going to do that. I would go to them and say, here's my advice. Because that's not a good situation for the agency, and that's not a good situation for the end user either. Nobody is winning. If it's a site that we struggle maintaining or working on, it's not a good site. So it needs to be rebuilt or updated. So I would go to them with a proposed solution. And of course, that isn't always possible, but
yeah, no, that makes sense. Jonathan, any questions before we head into bonus content here pretty soon?
No, I think we better wrap it up and go into bonus content, Steve.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in and listening. We're going to be going into bonus content here, but you can see the show notes and tune in for bonus content on the WP-Tonic YouTube page and the Facebook page. So make sure to check that out. See everybody. But before we go, Stephanie, how can people find out more about you and what you do?
You can check out our website, focuswp.co. Be warned, it's in 3D. Wow. I don't know why I got this obsession with 3D glasses and stuff, but there's a form on the site. If you sign up for the newsletter or just fill in the form, I'll mail you a pair of 3D glasses. I'll send you a little note and mail you a pair of 3D
let's go there right now then.
Yeah, I'm going to go get me some 3D glasses.
Let's go get my
you
glasses.
Got it. Yeah.
Is it those awesome old school cardboard cutout blue red? Oh man, that is.
I got a whole stack of them right here.
No way. Yeah. That's epic. That's so great.
I think there's a lot of people who like me to wear those all the time, especially certain people in the WordPress community. Sorry.
Oh, and you can join me in my Facebook group. Focus on your biz, B-I-Z.
All right. Cool.
Love to have you.
Jonathan, how can people find out more about you and what you do?
Just go to the WP-Tonic website, and if you want some recommendations on plugins for whatever you're doing, just go to WP-Tonic/recommendations, and we've got a whole list there of plugins and services that the WP tribe recommends.
Did you also know that I am going to be on the WP-Tonic podcast tomorrow?
Are you? I'm so surprised.
Double feature, man.
Double feature.
I know.
Truly blessed.
Right?
Doesn't get better than that.
No.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Catch Stephanie tomorrow on the WP-Tonic podcast again. And we'll move into bonus content now.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. All right, bonus content. This is where the rubber meets the road.
This is where we let our hair down. Things are going to get nuts.
Jonathan, do you want to lead off with any questions? I've been kind of dominating here. Sorry.
So, like you said, you're looking at, maybe a bit of a redesign of the website, new copy. Do you think you now understand who your persona, your target audience, the person that ideal persona client, do you think you know how to speak to them, and how did you come to understanding around who your ideal target customer is?
I know exactly who they are because I've been them. I've been them. I know what the pain points are. That's what I said. Like, I've done all the things. I've tried it all the different ways, and I know what I wish I had. Whenever you are working full tilt, like you don't have more hours, but you're not making enough money, and you need to, like, what do you do? Maybe you can charge more. Probably you can, but that's hard for a lot of people too. That's a challenge. But if that's not an option or whatever, what do? You need more hands on deck. You either need people to do things that you can't or won't do, or you just need more hands doing the things, right? So how do you do that when you already aren't making ends meet fully, or you just are? That because you have to train and vet people, you have to do all this stuff. We basically took HR out of the picture. So we said, we'll just provide you the team. They're already trained. They're already vetted. We're going to do quality control on their work. And you don't have to go through the hiring process. You don't have to, they're just there waiting on call without you having to have them on salary. So I solved that problem. Like, I know that problem in my bones because I felt it so many times. And so I know who they are. The struggle that I had isn't knowing who they are and what their problem is. It's finding that way, like, well, just anything you do for yourself is the hardest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we can help clients market themselves all day long and write UVPs for them and all that. But when you start doing your own, oh my gosh, it's like, go to the site. Tell me what you like, read my UVP. I tried it. We just tried one because we couldn't decide. So we're like, let's just try this one. And we put it on the main thing. But that whole terminology, like, that's the tricky part, right? Like, it's not like I understand the person, but what's the word that they're going to use as they refer to themselves? That's just what I meant by the copywriting thing.
So do you think that you want the website to be more of a driver? Because I got the impression that the main driver for new clientele is your Facebook group activity. So
It's both.
It's both. So it's you want the website to increase the amount of leads generated.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the Facebook group has a limited number of people in it, and it's private. And, so that's a finite circle, but the website's just out there for anybody who's searching for those particular solutions and stuff.
So just before we throw over to Stephen, how do you think, because obviously you're dealing with I just go to Upwork or I go to Fiverr and I find this amazing person just waiting there for $5 an hour that will do exactly what I want. So you're kind of dealing with that. Obviously, the reality is totally different. So do you think you get a lot of people that tried that and found out what the reality is?
That's a different solution. I mean, if that works for you and you can do it, go for it. But what we have, the other thing that I felt when I've tried that is, like, I'm talking where you're in that budget constraint, right? Things are tight. And you go and you hire somebody that you haven't had the time or the resources to vet, and you put them on a client project. And the next thing you know, they ghost or they don't do it the way it's supposed to be done or whatever. And what happens? You are up all night. You're working all weekend because it's on you because you're the business owner. So you have to crunch through. So when you've been burned by that, this is like, that's the other element that we took out of it. You don't, like, devs ghost. I don't know what it is, but devs ghost. But if a dev on your project ghosts with us, like, you'll never know because we have that under control. We just swap them out because we have the whole team.
Yeah, people make Upwork and Fiverr and all that stuff seem so easy, but in reality, like, it is a lot of hard work to find a good quality person that knows what they're doing and can get out of the gate. Like, I think we found somebody once off of. I mean, I've tried it like 1,000 times where it never worked out. But finally, like, where it did, like, you get like 100 applications. You go through everybody's applications and you decide who are the top, 10 people. Then you create a test and you can send those 10 people through a test. And then you do an interview. And then you're like, okay, these people can do it. But you've wasted, you could have done the same work 10 times over by the amount of time it took you to find that one person.
Yep.
And it looks
we're doing that constantly with Focus too. Like, we're constantly, for all 5 teams, we are like, we have active applications out. And because, we want to make sure that the staff we have has enough work to keep them happy. But then we can't, if we add on, as we grow as a business, we have to then expand our teams just at the right strategic time. So we just deal with all of that in the back end, and we just do it for you. We just take care of that. So you just don't have to. And it's going to be a little bit higher hourly than getting some guy for $5, right? We're not $5, but we're not outrageous either. Like the whole thing, the key to a white label outsourced solution, like if I can't price it so that you can make money on it, then I fail. So we price it so that like within like industry standard rates and stuff like that, we go under so that everybody has room in there. So far so good.
So, how do you deal with unrealistic expectations then, Stephanie? Because I think dealing directly with clients' expectations or unrealistic ones, or people even in the same industry, because people have a kind of mental visual expectation of what they should receive or shouldn't. How is that something over the years you've learned to deal with, so there is not a mismatch and you deal with it much earlier than what you did? So I'm trying to get from you, is it something that you've learnt and developed processes, and maybe you can give some insight about that journey?
Well, from my own personal experience in running an agency and everything, communication is so important up front. Establishing boundaries, establishing communication, establishing deliverables, like all of that stuff. And that's sort of how my personal relationships, like if you don't communicate clearly, messed up expectations, just miscommunications can be one of the biggest damaging factors in any relationship, professional, romantic, personal, whatever they are. So I think that is one of the big keys. The key for how things work with focus, with the on-demand stuff, is that the way we structure it is we're not in charge. People aren't coming to us for a quote. They're not coming to us for a bid or to ask us for advice. We're not your marketing director. We are not your agency. We're your team. When you come to us, you're the boss. So you set those things. And part of what I'm doing at my role at the company is to help educate and train folks to be better leaders as well. So when you come, you've got a staff. It's just like if you hired staff, you can't tell your client you're going to have something tomorrow that takes a week to build. That's on you, though. That's not on me. Like our devs and everybody works very reasonable speeds. I mean, stuff happens and there's delays. Sometimes stuff goes faster, but it's like we try and stick to basic. I mean, as long as my partner Tom has an agency too, so we've been doing this a long time. We have a general sense of like how long stuff takes, but we try to make it really clear that if you come and use our team, you are the boss and you are responsible for those kind of things. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. Maybe I didn't answer your question. I'm sorry.
No, but what I was trying to get from you, Stephanie, is what you think is clear based on industry practice, your years of experience, what doesn't need to be stated. You rapidly learn that these things that you feel are so obvious do need to be stated. Are you saying because of the type of clientele that you haven't found that to be so relevant?
I think it's a concern. And I think currently, because we're still growing, we still are able to give a lot of personal touch and to work directly with our agency clients and things like that. I think as we grow and things are, when that just by nature becomes less possible, I think that'll probably be more of an issue. But we're building some resources into the site. Actually, we're starting to do some charts and filterable things where people can get ideas of like, if I wanted to have a blog post of this length written and published and some artwork designed for it. How much time should I be looking at for those kind of pieces and stuff like that. So we're getting guidelines and things put up so that we're sort of trying to get ahead of that for when it does become, a little bit more automated and a little less personal. Any better that time? Was that better?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I've always wanted somebody to come out with a plugin that would look at all of your plugins on the site, where you could type in the error and it would be like, oh, it's because these plugins are conflicting, or because like this is like, because there's so much stuff that's just like so specific to the site, which is why like what you were saying about like training people and like hiring really good people is because there's so much nuances and so many variables in every specific WordPress site that to figure out the actual problem, you have to have a certain core skills of being able to debug. I've always found it interesting how like plugins interact with each other, and one can cause another one to have a problem, and it can be a maddening thing to like siphon through that all and figure it out. But I mean,
some days you just say, like, why am I in this industry? But for the most part, we have, we've got these devs. They're brilliant. I just love them. And they have different strengths. That's the other thing, is you don't just get one person. If you hire one person, you get one skill set. Yeah. So, we've got devs and they get scheduled on tasks based on availability and also their skill set. So, we've got some that, man, if you give them a detailed list, every I will be dotted, every T will be crossed. But if they hit any variation, they freeze. We've got others that might not be as skilled with code and things like that, but they can maneuver a little more. They can think creatively and have other solutions. And, so it just depends on what kind of scenario we're talking about, really, and so we sort of have a system for that. And we're never going to go fully automated with assignments and things, because it does need to be human beings.
Yeah, there's too many variables.
Focus WP hasn't gone AI yet, don't worry.
So your developers, have there been, as you learn, where have you found the best resources to find developers that have worked out for you? Are there particular geographic areas that you tend to lean to? I would imagine, like myself, you're a kind of mixture of domestic and offshore personnel. So are there particular geographic areas that have worked out better culturally for your own company's culture? Or have you really just selected people from all over the world, basically?
We have focused primarily on skill set, not geographic. I mean, sometimes when you're working with folks in other countries, time zones and things are an issue. We specify right up front, you need to overlap our hours by at least so much. And, you need to take a minimum of this many tasks per week and those kind of things. And then we've got, we've got review systems in place and all of that, so that if somebody isn't a good fit, there's things in place. We try and help them. And we really work hard to have to foster an environment where the folks love to work with us and they get treated well, they get paid fairly. We have fun little incentives, and we're working on a little system to gamify some stuff and get some peer-to-peer reviews going on, which is a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Peer-to-peer quality control is tricky, but that's something that I really want to implement, because I want to foster, I want to use that to make it not competitive, but to foster helpfulness and teamwork, so that it's not like I took this task, I'm going to do it, but so that one member of the team can reach out, that it's okay and actually encouraged for them to bring on a colleague if they want to combine skill sets or if they need advice or whatever, so that the project gets done to the highest level possible. So there's a lot of things. It's not just like figuring out how to work with all the builders. There's a lot of HR and administrative stuff involved. Yeah.
I think that's what's like surprised me the most about building a business in, a very dev website building ecosystem, is how much of the work ends, as you get more people on your team, how much of the work ends up being process and how things function and flow. And like, that's where success is. Like when I was just, working for other people and you're coding, it's like, oh, you just get a bunch of good coders together and you can build amazing, awesome stuff. And it's just like, oh, that's not true at all. Like,
right. No, it's a little more than that. Yeah. Well, and I'm fortunate. I think, have you guys ever read the book Rocket Fuel?
I have not. It's on the list though of books that
It's a good one. It sort of talks about, it's not a real heavy one, but business book, it's pretty simple to digest, but the basic concept is that if you have the visionary personality type, the ideas person, the gregarious, the outgoing, the like dreamer, and then you have the detail oriented technical, like the implementer, they call that one. And the best scenarios are when you have both of those things. Because and I have found that to be so true, and I absolutely hit the lottery with Tom, and he feels it's so funny too, because you could almost feel bad for the other person, like, oh, I'm sorry you have to do all that, and then he watches me get on podcasts and stuff, and he's like, I would die. Like he just loves to just stay. So he handles the back of house stuff, and I handle in the details and the smaller things, and I handle the big picture.
So you see yourself as the rainmaker, really?
I'm the visionary.
Ooh. Right. The visionary rainmaker. Right, yeah. Fair enough. I think we've taken up Stephen more than Stephanie's more of her time than necessary. Obviously, she's got a lot of maintenance requests to deal with, so you better wrap it up, Stephen.
That sounds good.
I don't have to do them. This is my job, so it's fine.
Yeah. Being a visionary. Love it. Well, Stephanie,
I'm visionary.
Yeah.
There's a few people that say I need a vision. All right. There we go.
Anyways, Stephanie, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Great.
Really appreciate hearing about everything that you guys have going on and maintenance and building a company. It's been really fun.
Hey, if you guys come and check out Focus WP, mention WP-Tonic and we'll hook you up.
Okay, awesome. I'm definitely gonna get myself those 3D pair of glasses.
I'll send you some out today. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.